Honestly, I'm not really sure what to do at this point. A few months ago, I posted the first video of me tearing this car apart, getting it ready for version 3, where I pulled all the body panels off of it and basically had everything just sitting in my driveway. I posted a video on TikTok and the Gen Zers went absolutely insane, not only about this rear fender rust, but they also said some pretty mean things about my skinny jeans. I don't think they were expecting to see a radiused over fender like this. A lot of people have never seen this before, and I didn't do a great job. I'm no professional fabricator, but I could definitely clean it up today. It's just a little bit of surface rust, so I'm not too worried about it. I might weld a few of these holes shut and grind some stuff down just so it looks nice, but especially I'm gonna paint over it so that it doesn't get any worse. So let's get cracking on that. That was the most silly way to do that. I'm gonna see if I can get the jack that's on the fork post under here, make things a little bit easier. Hopefully there's enough air in the tank. Oop. This thing's really cool. It's like a jack that slides all the way forward and back on the lift. The only bummer is if you got a really low car, oh, it's really heavy too. It's kind of hard to get underneath things, but really nice and a heck of a lot safer when you're working under the car. I found this wire wheel in the toolbox. I think before I was using one that was more like a disc, like angle grinder shaped, if there's a specific purpose for that, but we'll see how that works out. And if it's too wild and crazy, then I'll have to go to the store and grab a different one. That little thing did a pretty good job getting rid of all the rust, so I'm gonna take the sanding disc and just start grinding down some of these old welds and just make them look a little bit better, a little bit flatter, and then I'll probably weld a few of the little holes shut. It's never gonna be perfect. I mean, some of these holes are so big I can put my finger through, and I'm not even gonna bother with that, but I definitely wanna make sure that some of these parts that look like they're moving around a little bit are welded on there good, and it's not like it's really that big of a deal. This isn't my daily driver or anything. It's just a fun drift car. So there's a bit of expanding foam in here, which helps keep stuff out of the cabin that I kind of like filled it with. And that also keeps it a little bit quieter and just kind of blocks some of the smoke and stuff like that when you're drifting. So just a little bit of a trick there. Hopefully that stuff's not flammable, because when I start welding, I'm gonna keep a fire extinguisher real close. Just gonna put this right there. Welding is just like any other art form. Just about anyone can do it, but not very many people can do it well. So I definitely don't pride myself on my welding skills. But you know, it's fun to practice, and eventually you get a little bit better and you start to learn little tricks. Forgot to turn the gas on. So this kind of thing is pretty tough to do because you've got some pretty thin sheet metal here, and kind of just trying to weld it together. It's really easy to just blow through the sheet metal. It's not exactly very straightforward welding, like welding two chunks of metal together. So I might give up on this sooner than later, we'll see. Welding two skinny ass pieces of sheet metal together isn't exactly my forte. I'm not sure if I'm making it look better or worse. I kind of just went nuts on this thing with the welder and tried to get it the best I could. The sheet steel is really not easy to weld, like I mentioned. A lot of times you just end up blowing a hole through it and making the hole bigger, and sometimes it plays nice, sometimes it doesn't. You take a few steps forward and a few steps back, but I think it's definitely a lot stronger. There was some cracks and stuff in the old welds, and I got those all fixed up. So let's get this thing painted so we can put the over fenders on and just kind of move on from here. A lot of different companies make this stuff. It basically just fights rust. I think they put zinc in it. It'll help keep any more of the rust in there that I missed from getting worse, and hopefully the internet will not be upset with me anymore. It's definitely gonna be pretty exciting getting all the body panels back on, but I'm kind of not looking forward to it because none of this fiberglass stuff ever fits great. But I put riv nuts in here a while back thinking it'd be cool to have wide body that I could detach from the car and, you know, do whatever in here and put it back on, but I don't think I ever really used it. So now I have these giant things that protrude a little bit, and I might just end up drilling them out, which kind of sucks because it's going to leave a huge hole. I think knocking those riv nuts off with the chisel was definitely a stroke of genius. It was not going well drilling them out because a lot of times they get loose and then they just spin on you. But something else that I've noticed on this wide body that's been a little bit frustrating I'm gonna have to deal with is they painted it with some really thick paint, and the second I got these in the mail, the paint was already chipping off of them. So I'm pretty much gonna have to hit this thing with the orbital and probably just do like some 600 grit the whole way across and get a lot of this stuff off, because for whatever reason in some places this primer just did not stick. But that'll probably wait until I get these things kind of mounted up and squared away. So this thing's not exactly fitting as great as I expected. Might have to cut it even more than I originally thought. I've got the back here lined up really nice, but this top part here is pretty much hitting the window seal. As same thing with this up here, and I thought, well, maybe it's just too high, but I've got it lined up with the body line, which is right here, lines up with the door. So down here looks pretty okay. I think that looks normal, and same with this. You know, if the wheel is protruding from this wide body and it's not quite wide enough, there's a trick that you can do where you actually bow the wide body out and make it wider. So if that happens, then it's gonna mess up this door line a little. So we'll see kind of how it all comes together. I think I should probably put the wheel on and see what it looks like. I put this wheel on and I took a phone call from a friend of mine, and I was kind of just standing here for like half an hour staring at it, trying to figure out how I'm ever gonna get this to fit, because you can see the thing is sticking like 1.5 inches, maybe even 2 inches outside of the fender. My old wide body was only 30 millimeter overs, and I had bowed the wide body like, it must have been insane to get this to fit. These are 75 millimeter overs, so I thought I'd be a little bit safer, but it still needs a lot more. So I can't really bow these right now because it's got kind of this like gigantic lip on the inside here. I'm just gonna end up having to cut that part off, which I was already expecting to do. So the wheels do camber inwards as the car lowers. So I'll probably take it off the jack and air the car down so that we can see how much of that camber is helping. So once we get that kind of all situated, we'll have a much better idea. Let's just try that and hopefully it works, because it's a little scary looking at it like this. I'm trying my best to keep these little inner sections in, this part, and it might work in the rear, but this one is fouling a lot. Might as well start getting this like semi-mounted, so at least I've got some hard, you know, things to push against to help bend it. But some people would probably put Clecos in this so that they can take it on and off easily, but I don't really see the point. I'm just gonna blast a sheet metal screw through here. This wide body is just really stiff. It's like 1/8 inch of fiberglass, which is a lot. Now that that screw's in there, I mean, it feels like it bends just fine now. Definitely the problem. Love how this primer is just blowing off of it. Nice. All right, so now the real test will be if I can air the car up and down without it fouling. So let's just see what happens here. Oh my God. I think it actually worked. Woo! That looks nice. So a few of you that are paying really close attention might have noticed that I kind of messed this up a little bit. When I had the wide body on the car here, the body line with the door was not at all in line. I just was so concerned, you know, trying to get this thing to fit with the wheel poking out and everything, that I wasn't even paying attention to that. But for a while off camera, I spent just getting this thing lined up a lot better, which means I had to drill some new screw holes. I am gonna have to take some like fiberglass resin and fill these, I think. So another little issue I've noticed is this body is starting to crack already. So I might have to kind of Dremel that out, fill it with some fiberglass and fix it. It's happening in 2 different places. But for now, I'm just kind of gonna be busy for the next few hours filling these holes and fixing this, which really sucks because that's gonna take a while. This was not exactly a step that I was anticipating having to do. So while that dries, I think the next step, honestly, is to start wrapping this. Whoops, I broke the top off of this. Anyways, I'm gonna start wrapping this quarter panel, get it nice and purple. Obviously, most of this will be covered by the over fender, but when there's little bits and things here and there, obviously I don't wanna see the green underneath. So I'm gonna wrap it all the way from this part of the door jamb all the way back to the taillight. So that'll be a pretty big chunk. I got that all finished up and it took quite a while, but it was definitely good for practice for the rest of the car. I'm definitely gonna take the wheel off next time on the other side when I do this, because even trying to cut this out and keep it from running into the wheel still didn't work that great, and the wheel just made the vinyl want to do all kinds of weird things and I couldn't pull on it very well. So I've got some knifeless tape out, and I showed this in one of the previous episodes. I'm gonna use this to do the C-pillar, and I'm gonna run it along the edge here where I want the vinyl to be cut. And what this is a piece of string inside of the tape. When I put that down and vinyl over it, when I pull that string out, it'll cut the vinyl in the exact place that I want it without using a razor blade. That easy. Getting this quarter panel and the C-pillar wrapped is pretty exciting. It feels like the car is like finally kind of getting somewhere, because I can see, you know, the color here, and it feels like a purple car standing right here. But I think I'm just gonna take it slow on the wrap and do like a few panels every episode, so that way it's not just one huge daunting video of me doing all the panels at once. It just kind of breaks it up a little bit, and before you know it, it'll be all wrapped and it'll be done. I'm not exactly happy with it, but I spent another hour and a half or so just sanding this thing down, getting as much of that primer that was chipping off as possible, because it was kind of just chipping everywhere. I'm gonna hang this thing temporarily with the sheet metal screws and then start wrapping it. It makes a huge difference when you wrap something that's like attached to the car, so you can get lots of leverage to pull in different directions. Before I kind of get to the part where I roll the edge over, I'll pull it off and just finish the last little bits. Then we'll put this thing on permanently with the rivets. All right, the good thing is it looks like these cracks that were here, I mean, you can still kind of see them, but they are not nearly even close to as bad as they were before. So seems like they're holding and that they're not gonna crack any worse, hopefully, for now. I ran down to the store earlier and got some more rivets, and I also bought a new heat gun. I broke my other one at the last episode when I was wrapping the trunk or something. And this battery powered one I had as a backup pretty much sucks for this. So this one's nice and powerful and heats up quick, which is very convenient, able to get a large area warm all at the same time, which is kind of what you need for this. All right, so what I've learned from all the YouTube videos I've watched is get the vinyl evenly warm here all over the place. And then you're gonna wanna kind of pull it pretty tight, like hard, not only towards yourself, but my arms are going away from each other. All right, I don't want to jinx it, but the part that I thought was going to be really hard kind of just went right through it pretty quickly, so that's good. I would love to be like those guys in the videos that are just like, the thing's done, but that never works out for me. Wrapping this over fender actually turned out to be a lot easier than I expected, and it was actually pretty satisfying because it went pretty fast, and a lot of the spots that I thought were gonna be hard, I kind of just breezed over. I think this vinyl just works really well, and I've already figured it out already, so I can't wait to do some of the easier pieces like the door and the roof. I feel like I can probably do a really good job. The only thing that just really drives me crazy is I can't seem to ever get the contaminants away from the parts. You know, there's always dust and things that get underneath here, and it just drives me insane. I know I'm working in this dusty ass garage where I just cut a whole bunch of fiberglass, so kind of like my own problem, but what are you gonna do? I always find doing the rivets to be really fun. Something about that satisfying pop, and then you kind of have this like permanent solution that can't unscrew. The only hard part is you gotta be pushing against this to get the wide body pushed on there as good as you can, but you gotta be really careful that you don't hit this thing with the riv nut, because then you'll literally tear your vinyl. All right, you can imagine if you didn't do that, this sharp piece right here bounces back, and all it takes is one little touch and it just tears the vinyl immediately. I'll do the other side of the wide body at some point later this week, and I'll probably do it off camera so you guys don't have to watch it all over again. And it'll also be a lot faster because it's pretty time consuming. And I know a lot of you have probably shot and edited videos yourself, and you know how difficult it is. Luckily, I'm a professional, so I know a lot of tricks and I can kind of knock it out pretty fast. But there's another thing that's a huge issue in the garage, and that's how dangerous of an environment it is in here for our camera. It's very dusty and there's sparks flying all over the place. Every once in a while the tripod gets knocked over just because there's all this stuff in here. I've broken the lens off of this camera before, which really sucks. And the other day, well, it was 2 months ago, This tripod tipped over when it was just kind of sitting in the corner, and it must have fallen pretty hard because it broke one of these handles off. And what this handle does is it unlocks and locks the raise and lower on this tripod. And since there's no handle on this side anymore, there's just this tiny little metal thing sticking out, and that can be pretty painful to try to adjust that with your finger. I tried to weld something to it to give myself a little bit more leverage last week, and pretty much the whole tripod just like caught on fire, and I got nowhere. It melted a bunch of plastic, and I think part of the problem is this is aluminum. So I finally got the new part from Germany. I've been waiting, since I broke it, and I'm gonna see how hard that is to replace today. So hopefully we'll be able to take this thing apart and just kind of put it back together in 30 minutes. This is a pretty expensive tripod. I think with the legs and the head, it's about $3,000, and having a good tripod makes a big difference. So you spend a lot of money there, but this is probably about the 5th or 6th time it's been broken, and it's a little bit frustrating fixing these kinds of things. Sometimes it's me, and sometimes it's the airlines, which is no surprise, but it's pretty important to have all this stuff working properly, because if you don't have a good working tripod and the thing fails on you, your, who knows, even more expensive camera might get injured. So luckily, I think this is a pretty easy fix. Just fishing this thing through here. You can see it uses this like cable to detach, almost like a braking system on the inside. And having that cable pulled taut is what tightens the brake system inside of this. All right, seems like this thing is functioning again like it should be. Nice to have a perfectly working tripod again. I've usually got a pretty good idea of what I want to do in each episode, but now that I'm looking at the car and it's, parked on this direction, I feel like I should probably just wrap this door. I'll take the mirror off, which, holy shit. Uh-oh. My window switch is broken. I managed to get the window seal off and the mirror off, no problem with the window still up. That switch has been a problem for a long time, and I think it's the reason that the passenger side doesn't roll down sometimes. So something must have finally just like bumped up against it, or I don't know how that happened, but one of the things was busted off. This mirror got broken too a while back. I was taking the garbage out and hit the garbage can on this mirror, the little spring that goes in there. So maybe I'll take this thing apart and see if I can kind of figure out what's going on in there. And yeah, we'll start wrapping this. Okay. Whew. Since this thing's off the car, we might as well wrap it. Get this thing blown off one more time, and then I'll pull the backing off. Oh yeah, this is like pro level vinyl wrapping right here. One of my viewers was saying to spray some kind of lubricant type stuff like this Rapid Tack to keep the scratches down, so that might help. We'll see. It's definitely a lot easier already without having that door handle in the way. I got that main part of the door finished up. It went pretty fast, but then I started wrapping the door jamb, and it sounds a little insane to do, but I really love how it came out. It just makes the car feel way nicer, not seeing that nasty, scratched up, dirty green anymore. So really proud of that. I got to use the knifeless tape and kind of split it in 3 different sections. I'm gonna move on to the mirror here, and ironically, after I fixed the mirror and put it kind of back together with those springs, I took it apart again so I could get inside each of these little crevices here. This is kind of just where it mounts, and this is looking pretty nice so far. I'm gonna wrap this oval shape part of it. The only problem is I can't really mount it to the car until I put it all back together, and I don't really want to put it all back together until I'm done wrapping it. So this could definitely be a challenge. The wide body all came out looking really good. I'm pretty happy with it, and I did the passenger side a lot quicker than the driver side. For whatever reason, that seemed to fit a lot better over there. I think also too, I was just a lot more confident in exactly what I was doing, where to bend it, where to put the screws. So I kind of flew through that and got the mirror and the door handle wrapped. I also wrapped the door sill on the driver's side. So that's pretty cool. That's all looking purple. I'll get to the passenger side eventually, but I kind of want to move on for a little bit and do some other stuff. Next week, I'm going to be doing the fenders in the front, and I'll wrap the hood. But at this point, the car is already more than half purple. So really all that's left, and then the front rear bumpers and the side skirts. And I mean, version 3 is pretty much done at this point. The car still has, a small laundry list of things that I want to get done to it, like changing the oil. I think I'm going to take my oil cooler off. Need to figure out what's wrong with my valve cover. One of the bolts holding the coil pack is stripped out. So I need to take a look at all those things, but probably here pretty soon in the next few weeks, I'm gonna be driving this car and swapping the Quattro into the garage, and we're gonna get down and dirty on the Quattro. There's gonna be a lot going on with that thing. So probably gonna pull the motor, but so far so good on this. I can't believe it's already been like 13 or 14 episodes or something like that, but thanks for following along. The car is making really good progress in the last 3 months, so I'll see you on the next one. Check your polarizer.